Arizona is on track to restart executions as early as just a few months from now. According to the Arizona Attorney General's office, Chris Mays put out a statement on Tuesday, emailed this statement over, and it said that her office has been preparing for most of the year to resume executions in the state. She said she's worked with the Arizona Department of Corrections, Rehabilitation, and Reentry to review and improve death penalty procedures. Arizona's had a long history of this law. Death by lethal injection hasn't been carried out in Arizona since November of 2022, and there was an 8-year hiatus following that execution that happened in 2014. The one
that took like 2 hours or something like that.
It took 2 hours, and that one became a very big deal. The person who was put to death, I almost said gentleman, but I don't believe most people who are put to death are gentlemen or gentle ladies, but was described as gasping for air. And well, you have this issue of the term that always comes up is cruel and unusual punishment. And there are some out there who will say, well, if somebody killed someone, they deserve, a cruel and unusual death. But the standard that Arizona has is that it won't be cruel and unusual punishment. We won't make you, gasp like a fish, looking for air and water if we're trying to put you to death. It's supposed to be pretty simple.
To be quick and
you'd say
hopefully not
painless.
Yeah.
But how do you do that? And that's the issue here is with Arizona getting set to start all of this back up, they say could resume as early 2025. And Chris Mays is planning to request an execution warrant in the coming weeks for a gentleman whose name we've heard before as well, Aaron Brian Gunchus, who was accused of, I don't have it in front of me, I can look it up, but he was accused of killing his ex-girlfriend's husband?
Husband, yeah.
So it gets a little convoluted. He was dating a woman,
who had an
he
ex-husband.
Killed her ex-husband. And he tried to kill an Arizona State trooper as well, I believe.
Oh, wow.
So where do you stand? Death penalty? Do you want to see Arizona bring it back, or just find that we haven't had it for the last year or so in the state?
This is one of those subjects when it comes up that I'm like, I just don't feel as informed to discuss it, like in terms of whether or not it should happen for somebody or whatever. Obviously, I'm somebody who I always say, like, I know I'm not that great of a person, because if something happens to innocent like children or something like that, I'm like off with their head right away. I'm like, I don't want to hear anything about it. I don't want to see that person have a chance at recovery or anything. I'm like, get them out of here.
Yep.
That's an ailment to society, and just get them out. So I feel like, and things are always more nuanced than that when you come to individual cases and stuff like that. And then we had that thing recently, not here in Arizona, but in a different state, where people were signing a petition because there had been advancements in like DNA evidence, and this guy was proven to be not guilty.
Oh, there's no doubts that at some point somebody who's been put to death in the United States
didn't deserve it.
Didn't commit the crime that they were put to death.
So that's obviously not always happening, but there are instances where a person was put to death and then it was proven that they had nothing to do with it. And I hate hearing about things like that. And obviously death is a permanent decision. And then the counter argument to that is, well, then if that person put somebody else to death, then why are we even discussing it? No. They need to go, I think what it comes down to for a lot of people, and what I've heard people talk about, is the cost of it as a taxpayer. Like who pays to put these people to death, and or what does it cost as an alternative to keep them on death row?
Costs more to put somebody to death than to keep them alive for the rest of their life and keep them in jail. Expensive either way, but it does cost more because of the appeals and the things like that. The amount of appeals that you have, and until you exhaust them, it does cost more to proceed with death penalty cases than to keep somebody alive and just sentence them to life in prison.
I saw that the Arizona DLC spent $1.5 million on lethal injection drugs. So,
That's been a huge fight too.
Yeah.
What drugs will be used? And there was a 3-drug cocktail at one point in time. Then I believe they went to 2 drugs. There may have been just 1 drug at one point in time, but there definitely used to be, it was like one that would kind of knock you out, one that would then stop your heart. And so it was different drugs would do different things to you and all ultimately lead to the end.
What is your opinion on keeping somebody on death row versus execution? Because you think if you were to suffer a loss of somebody close to you due to the hands of another human being, would you feel it would be more punishment for them to live out their days and have to live with that versus them getting the death penalty? And some people are seeing that as a way out, like you get off easy. But for some families, they say that's the justice they're seeking. They want to see that person gone, then they can feel that justice was served.
Thanks for watching The Chris and Joe Show. Click to see more from Chris and Joe and tap the button in the middle to subscribe to KTAR News.